The topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to Powerful Business Strategies, where you will find out that everything you have ever learned about growing your business is wrong. Finally, a show where you'll learn the right way to grow your business by learning business and financial strategies that your competition isn't doing. And now, here is your host, President of Next Step CFO, Michael Barbarita. And joining Michael for today's show as an executive moderator is Chucky Obia.
Yes, this is Chucky, and I believe that gratitude is undefeated and growth is about the next step. It is an honor for me to moderate today's discussion with my good friend, Michael. Michael, how the heck are you?
Excellent, Chucky. And I am Michael Barbarita from Next Step CFO. And Next Step CFO is a fractional CFO and strategic implementation firm. And our vision is to ensure overwhelmed business owners achieve the time freedom and consistent profits to build a legacy and the life they desire. And our mission is simple. It's dedicated to guiding small business owners to leveraging their time, exploding their profits, and build a meaningful legacy. And this show, Powerful Business Strategies, and our book of the same name, is a step toward accomplishing that vision and mission. And so with that, I'd like to hand it back to my co-author and moderator, Chucky Obio.
Michael, look, I'm really energized about today's discussion, but just a quick disclaimer before we get started. So Michael's point about just legacy. Look, Michael and I are both affiliated with a number of different organizations, and I currently serve as the managing director of business development for Vetter Price, a global business-focused law firm. In addition to that, I collaborate strategically with Michael to moderate a number of business roundtables, really nationally. And we document those best practices from our conversations with successful business owners. But look, the views expressed today's show are our own views based on our successful experiences. And my mission as the fearless moderator is to ask the right questions and to help you and me candidly learn the best business strategies that the competition isn't doing. So, Michael, I'll toss it back over to you.
Thank you, Chucky. And today, our topic is about 7 action items to take in an economic downturn, to which I promised to get to. But I want to tell you something that I feel compelled to say, because there could be many business owners out there that are deciding on whether or not to pursue their dream. And it can be a very difficult and risky decision when it comes to implementing a new idea.
Absolutely.
So I just want to offer a little short insight about it. Back in 2002, I put together a complete written business plan to create virtual trade shows on the internet. It was called tradeshowsonthenet.com. And these virtual trade shows that I was creating would help small companies who can't afford to attend or exhibit at trade shows an opportunity to attend them over the internet. Now, I never wrote a complete business plan with financial projections and all that I never implemented, except for this one.
Wow.
Yeah, I even bought the domain, tradeshowsonthenet.com. And as I kind of reflect back on why I didn't pursue my business plan, I remember I was fraught with fear of making any kind of change and self-doubt that I could do it. Fear and self-doubt that I couldn't raise the money, for example. Fear and self-doubt that I couldn't find the technical expertise. Fear and self-doubt that the whole idea was just way before its time, or maybe it wasn't ever going to be in its time. I could have hit enter, but I hit delete. A year later, in 2003, I received an email from a company called On24, who, among other things, creates and builds virtual trade shows. They had 3 venture firms on their board. They were doing extremely well, and they're still in business today. And I saw pieces of their virtual trade shows, and it was exactly what I envisioned. And I even had even more bells and whistles than they did. But evidently, the founder of On24, Sharat Sharan, he had no fear and no self-doubt about raising money. He had no fear and no self-doubt about finding the technical expertise. And he had no fear and no self-doubt about the timing of the project. And if he had that fear, boom, he overcame it. He didn't hit delete. He hit enter.
Remarkable.
So wouldn't it be a shame to do what I did and let fear of making a change and self-doubt prevent you from serving the world?
Michael, look, I am so inspired by that. And we're getting some really nice comments from the folks that are on. We've got quite a number of business owners that are on. And I think there's some head nods to that. So fear and self-doubt. Michael, give us a sense. How does that connect to our topic today? Because I think there's a great connection with this idea of overcoming fear and self-doubt and then managing a successful business in economically uncertain times.
Yeah, so that's exactly what happens to you in an economic downturn. There's this fear of making a change, because the ability to, as we'll get into, the ability to adapt is a critical skill for a business owner. And then what happens is when you're thinking about adapting, you have this self-doubt that creeps in about the change, because you're not used to change or you fear change. And so it is related for sure. And I'm not saying that this story made it easier for someone to make this kind of a decision, but I wanted to share this personal story of regret, because that's what it is. It's a personal story of regret. And if anybody out there is thinking about, they have the groundwork for an idea, in most of the time, it's better to hit enter than it is to hit delete.
It's just a remarkable vision to plant in the mind of business owners. And Michael, look, business ownership and leadership is really hard.
Agreed. Yep, absolutely.
It's hard.
And yeah, it is. And the ability to adapt is hard.
Absolutely. And what I love about the ability to adapt, and Michael, I'll pivot us. So the focus for today's show is on the 7 actions that successful business owners take to deal with an economic downturn. Now, Michael, you and I have had a number of strategic conversations about this. Now, I know from experience and practice that number 1 action is the ability to adapt. So did you want to maybe give us a little bit of an outline, and then we could get into
let me give a little context to all of it. So how do we business owners prepare for an economic downturn? Because here's the thing. Business is terrifying.
Yes.
And it's terrifying because we business owners are responsible for so many other people's lives. And the scariest thing about business is that when you wake up in the morning, boy, you just never know what to expect. Me too. And the world is so fast. Things are getting done at the speed of light, and it's hard to keep up. So our objective in this show is to give you ideas. We want to present financial and business strategies that your competition isn't doing, and by virtue of that, help you thrive in an economic downturn, reducing the terror and uncertainty of business. But know this, understand this part. You can never really be ready for an economic downturn, but you can be prepared. And that's what we're going to go over today, 7 items to prepare you for an economic downturn. And our job as business owners, as we were just saying, is to be prepared to adapt. That means to be flexible to change. And the thing about it is many are resistant to change and therefore don't adapt. And that's why so few thrive in an economic downturn. And business it's always changing. And
It is.
yeah, God, it's unbelievable. And this is true now more than ever. And that's why Chuki and I will keep writing additional additions to our book and get feedback. And we hope to get feedback in forums like this as well. And just a short time ago in 2022, interest rates were low and many industries were having record years. 2023 was tougher. And with interest rates staying high, credit card delinquencies also rising, personal savings in decline, and an uncertain political climate, for many industries, the next year is very, very uncertain. And as a fractional CFO and strategic implementation strategist, I see this uncertainty every day. So I get asked, I'm always asked, why are some companies winning while others are struggling? What are the winning companies doing differently? And how can I win in an economic downturn? So let me try to answer those questions with these 7 action items that I believe are necessary to prepare for an economic downturn. So adaptation is one, but winning business owners need to have a laser focus on their number one goal. Not the number one business goal, but the number one goal for themselves and their families.
Michael, it's interesting. So we just got a nice question just really quickly on that.
Yeah, sure.
So an example of a personal goal that's different from a business goal at a high level.
Well, an easy one is time freedom to be able to spend more time with my family. That is a personal goal. You want to spend more quality time with your family. You want to create memories with them. That is a personal goal versus a business goal being I'm looking to achieve $3 million in revenue.
Great clarification, Michael. Yep, we're getting some thank yous on that.
Okay.
Continue on. Thank you.
Excellent. No problem. Now, achieving their number one personal goal or focusing on their number one personal goal is not only their why. It's not only their why. It's their why, but it's not only their why. It's also their motivation to adapt and to be flexible to change. So if they are really focused on their number one personal goal, that's not only their why, but it's going to give them the motivation to adapt and to be flexible to change, which is a critical component of winning in an economic downturn. And that's why I say that great CEOs always start by understanding their personal goals and motivations. What's really important to you and your family? But from my perspective, it's important to me that my business serves me, not the other way around. I don't want to feel like a slave to my business. And that's, another reason for this show. We're trying to overwhelm business owners. We're trying to get them out of that hamster wheel mode. And so we have to start by setting our personal goals first and then moving to our business goals. So now, with respect to our business goals, the way one needs to look at those business goals is net profit goals first, then revenue goals. It's really true that revenue goals without net profit goals are useless because it's net profit that is going to be able to drive all your decisions. For example, if you want more take-home pay, you need more profit. You should have a profit goal, not a revenue goal. You want to pay down debt. Guess what? You need more profit. You want to hire additional people, whether it be a manager or even a general manager to run things. You need more profit. So we always talk about revenue goals, many of us business owners, but it's really net profit goals and then revenue goals. It's not like you ignore the revenue goal, but you certainly focus on the net profit goal first. And then next, winning business owners in an economic downturn have a visionary mindset. It's so easy to get sucked into the doom and gloom of an economic downturn. It's just so easy. And you go into scarcity mode, negativity mode. Don't do that. Wow. And certainly the world is changing, but it's not ending. We need to adapt, not shut down. So when you make decisions, you need to adapt to the situation that's in front of you. And I see so many times that business owners feel so much pain in an economic downturn that they make hasty decisions. They don't adapt to the conditions and really take the time with a calm demeanor and strategically work their way to winning again. Strategically. And, maybe it takes utilizing the conversion formula that we talked about in previous shows, or an understanding of the customer problem. Maybe it takes making a compelling offer that we discussed, I think it was last week. Maybe it creates upsells, cross-sells, and downsells. Maybe it takes rejuvenating former customers. Maybe it requires an understanding of what happens if business is 20% off and how that affects cash flow. Maybe it means you have to cut costs. Maybe it requires strategic alliances and joint ventures with other companies. All of these we will discuss in future shows, but one of the beautiful things about being in business is that are always options. And it's just about understanding and knowing what those options are.
Absolutely. So, Michael, a really good question from a business owner. What is a conversion model? So it's the conversion formula that we've explored in past episodes.
Right.
So did we want to just quickly touch on that?
Sure, I will quickly touch on it. So the conversion formula is a formula to convert prospects into customers. And there's 4 parts to it. Correct. And it needs to be done in that exact order as I'm going to state. Otherwise, it doesn't work. So let me go through those steps. It starts with the captivate. The captivate is actually identifying the problem that the customer has and doesn't want. You must identify that problem if you're going to convert a prospect. Now, it's not easy necessarily to find that problem, and that's why we have a 13-week program to do just that, identifying the problem and your unique solution, which is the fascinate. So it's captivate, the problem the customer has and doesn't want, and fascinate, the solution that they're looking for that they can't find. Those are the first 2 components of the conversion formula, and we call that, those first two components, the position of market dominance. So that's step 1 and 2. Step 3, and by the way, you never get to step 3 if you don't have a good position of market dominance. Captivate and fascinate.
Good clarification.
Step 3 is educate.
Yes.
So now that you've interrupted, if you will, through the captivate and engage the prospect through the fascinate, it's now time to educate them a little bit more. You've got their attention now because you hit a hot button, that problem that they have that they don't want, and you offered a solution that they want that they can't find. So now you have a little bit more time to educate them. And one of the problems I see, Chucky, is that most business owners start with the educate.
Yes.
They line list services, multiple services in the hope that they won't forget somebody.
Well, Michael, are you telling me there are a bunch of websites where business owners are saying they've got the largest selection, they've got the lowest prices?
That's right. that hope so. I hope so. Marketing.
Exactly.
Largest selection, lowest prices, best service, honesty, high quality, most professional, fastest, largest in the state. All that is all jargon. It's not meat and potatoes, what the customer really cares about.
Correct.
And then finally, you have to hit the customer with a compelling offer. And so it's captivate, fascinate, educate, and offer. That's the conversion formula. And now there's 5 components to a compelling offer.
Okay.
The first one is scarcity and urgency.
Correct.
So scarcity, there's only 3 left. Urgency, this price, this offer ends Friday.
Yep.
So scarcity and urgency. And by the way, it's important to note that you can combine these components of a compelling offer.
Correct.
You just don't have to have one. You can combine them, which makes the offer even more compelling.
For sure.
The second component of a compelling offer is what's called a risk reversal, where the seller in the transaction takes most or all of the risk. Now, an example of that is when I was in the ski business, we had what we called a ski guarantee. Now, the customer's problem in the ski business is when they were sold a pair of skis, they really didn't know if it was the right ski for them until they got it up on the mountain. So we put together what we called a ski guarantee. Ski the ski 3 times. You don't like it, bring it back for a brand new pair, and keep bringing it back until we get it right. And you know what? Many people thought that the customer would take full advantage of that and bring back multiple pairs of skis multiple times, but that never happened because we solved their problem by getting the right ski for them.
Correct.
The third component of a compelling offer is adding more value to a product or service. So always be thinking about how you could create more value at a low cost. And now remember, if you create more value, you can increase the price.
That's a good point.
Right. So you add more value at a low cost and then increase the price to reflect that added value, or even some of that added value, and you could still make a very profitable scenario. And that's compelling. When you add more value to a product, that is compelling. And then the fourth component of a compelling offer is packaging and bundling.
Yes.
There is a perception out there with the customer that if you package things together, there's a value. There's more value there. There's more perception of value. So when I was in the ski business, for example, every one of my competitors packaged skis, boots, and bindings. But we also packaged clothing, which separated us, which was doing something that our competition wasn't doing, by packaging a hat with a bib, a parka, and a sweater. And they flew out the door, and it was a very effective strategy. So, you know, when we combined the ski guarantee with packaging clothing, it was a great combination, and it was utilizing more than one component of a compelling offer. And then the fifth compelling offer is simply being indifferent to the outcome. Many times business owners press to make a sale.
Yeah.
And the customer can figure that out. They figure out that you have your interests that are more of a priority than theirs. And by being indifferent to the outcome, you know, by telling them that, you know, we're doing this for you. You're getting on the same side. We're locking arms. You're getting on the same side of the table. That is compelling.
Great. And Michael, I'll interject here. We'll give just a quick compliment to Pete's Plumbing and Heating Company.
Okay.
And they proposed that question, by the way, on the conversion formula. And Michael, I think you broke that down really well. So just as a quick recap, it's a first step, captivate. Second step, fascinate. Third step, educate. And then fourth step, to make the offer. And then there are 5 ways to make an offer compelling. And Michael, again, you did a really great job of just breaking that down. Scarcity and urgency is the first. Yep. Second, risk reversal. Third, adding more value. Fourth, packaging and bundling. And then this fifth one, which is really good, this indifference to the outcome. And picking up on that last point, indifference to the outcome. I mean, Michael, how do you think this connects back to some of the successful actions that business owners can take, particularly with the visionary mindset?
Well, I think, you know, once again, it's being more concerned about the prospect's problem and really showing that. You know, one of the things that we do is we focus on what their number one goal is, and it's different for all industries, but we focus on what the number one goal of that business owner is. And then, because what it does is it gets into a real deep discussion with the business owner that we're really concerned about helping them achieving that number one goal. And it hit, and there's an emotional chord that gets hit there, and that's where the indifference comes in. By really digging deep into that customer problem and solving it. It just helps tremendously with the conversion to a sale.
Michael, I mean, that's such a great point. And the conversion equation can be executed online and offline. Is that right?
That's correct. It could be the conversion formula can be used for any communication to a client, any communication at all, to a prospect, I should say. Any communication. We have had positions of market dominance, the Captivate and Fascinate, on incoming voicemail messages.
Wow.
On the greeting in a voicemail.
Mm-hmm.
So any type of communication to a prospect is where the conversion formula can be very effective.
Really important. So yeah, we're getting some nice gratitude notes just in the way that you detailed that response. There's some folks that are saying that was very practical. And actually a nice little comment here. I've got to redo my whole website. We got that. So Michael, just really, really good stuff. Just as a point of recap to these 7 actions, and Michael, look, I was taking some good notes here. These 7 actions, you've covered action 1, which is having the ability to adapt. Action 2, defining a business owner's number 1 personal goal. Action 3, documenting those business goals, particularly net profit goals first. And then 4, adopting a visionary mindset. So I wanted to just make sure, Michael, I'm taking really good notes here.
Yep.
Any additional thoughts or comments related to those first 4 actions before we move on?
Yeah, we'd like, on the visionary mindset, we want to avoid scarcity-based decisions. And make those visionary decisions. You got to think about the impact of your decision. I don't care what time you're in, whether you could be in a really difficult economic situation, but you got to think about your decisions and how they're going to be impacted next quarter, next year, 5 years from now. You have to make decisions that will serve you in the long run. And what this means is that when we make decisions in an economic downturn, it can't be a decision just to ease the pain for a little while. It has to be the right decision for the long term. And let me give you an example, Chuki.
Mm-hmm.
I have had 52 kidney stones over the last 43 years.
Wow.
And with each and every stone, the doctors and nurses focused on reducing my pain through numbing drugs, but not removing the cause of the pain, which was the actual stone. Now, eventually they did that, or believe me, I wouldn't be here today. But that was not their first order of business. When our businesses are in pain, we feel the need to relieve the pain, okay, and instead of taking out the stone, finding the root cause of the pain and solving that. And a simple example of what business owners do immediately is they discount prices.
Yeah.
That all that does is relieve the pain. It doesn't address the cause of the pain by not having enough value. That's the cause.
It's interesting. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Michael, I'm also I'm also thinking you might be Superman. I mean, how many of those kids? Whoa! Remarkable. Yeah. We've got to get your healthcare secrets.
No, you don't. Yeah, you mean But the problem is, it's just the recovery of it is just amazing, and then you have to deal with all the pain that's involved. It's quite a process. That's all I could say. Otherwise, I'm just going to get gross. I'll gross out everybody. And so this next part, in terms of handling and being prepared for an economic downturn, it's going to probably freak out a lot of people because we know a lot of people aren't doing this. And we know that because we've taken 80 small business owners, over 80, to an individual business assessment. And in that assessment, we ask 3 basic financial questions. And those financial questions are: number 1, what is your annual revenue? 2, what's your gross profit percent? And 3, what's your net profit percent? Just those 3 questions. And 80% of these business owners didn't know the answers.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's a real problem. And winning business owners make the right decisions in an economic downturn because they make decisions based on the numbers. Now, when times are good, no problem. You'll get by. You'll get by not looking at numbers. It's not effective. It's not even close to being effective, but you'll get by. But to win in an economic downturn, you must make decisions based on the numbers. And what numbers, you might ask? Well, Chucky, I have a name for them. I call them the vital 5. You see, these 5 numbers should be with you at all times, and they should burn in your memory because you will improve decision making immediately by just understanding these 5 data points. Because every decision you make usually involves these 5 data points. And these 5 data points, what I call the vital 5, is sales, gross profit dollars, gross profit percent, your net profit, and your current cash balance. By understanding these numbers, you're going to improve your decision making. So, and in future shows, for sure, we'll go over what specifically these 5 items are and how they impact decision making. But if you have these 5 numbers in mind, you don't even have to really know the rest of your P&L or the rest of your balance sheet. But without these 5 numbers, it's hard to make the right decisions. So the next thing is that, and this is all the financial component, by the way, this next couple of components. So next is winning business owners understand what their financial statements are telling them. Now, the 3 key financial statements are the P&L, balance sheet, and cash flow statement. And believe it or not, when I'm in a room of small business owners and I ask how many people look at their P&L at least once a month, less than half raise their hand. And then when I ask how many people look at their balance sheet once a month, that's where less than 10% raise their hand. And when I ask how many people look at their cash flow statement once a month, I might get 1 person to raise their hand. So you can imagine, like, that's cash flow. To me, that's the lifeblood of a business being totally neglected. And the good news is you don't have to know how to read financial statements, but you do need to understand the story behind them and how those financial statements will guide you to the best decisions. And if you need help understanding your financial statements, you got to go out and get that help. It's crucial.
Yeah.
So the next thing that winning business owners have in an economic downturn is a business and cash flow forecast. Why is that? Well, the business and cash flow forecast helps you understand the outcome and ramifications of your decisions before you make them. So it's basically a situation where we could give you the answers to with a business and cash flow forecast, you could get the answers to an exam before the exam.
Well, yeah, Michael, folks are saying, sign me up for that.
Yeah, it just gives you that foresight. So, for example, how many of the business owners out there have ever been surprised by a cash flow problem? Well, if you have a business and cash flow forecast, You'll never be surprised by a cash flow problem again, because you'll always know what your projected cash position looks like today and in the future by month. I have many times been able to tell clients that they're headed for a cash flow problem. Let's say I was talking to them today in July. I could tell them many times that at the beginning of the year, in January, February, and March, they're headed for a cash flow problem. What do we need to do today to prevent that? And just that one thing, we've been able to circumvent big trouble. And as I've always pointed out, CEOs of the best companies are never surprised by cash flow or anything else for that matter, because they have a business and cash flow forecast. And what's interesting, Chucky, is there's a reason why Fortune 500 companies, every single one, has a business and cash flow forecast. There's a reason for that. And it could be, and like I have done many times personally, we prepare business and cash flow forecasts for any type of business at all. I don't care how small you are, because it gives you that foresight, and it also identifies the most effective business model you can have. And that's something that small business owners who are starting out with need.
Yeah.
They need to know that.
That point really resonates. Absolutely resonates with me. I mean, small businesses are the lifeblood of our economy. You know that, I know that. And some of the reactions that we're getting here is you're saying there's Fortune 500 level service that small business owners could get access to by just embracing this idea of a business and cash flow statement. Is that right?
That's correct. Yep. And yes, absolutely. One other thing that it does, I promised I wouldn't get into this until we have our show on the business and cash flow forecast, but it answers the can I afford it question. Many times, I can't tell you how many times I get asked, can I afford a new truck? Can I afford a manager? Can I afford a new location? Can I afford to add a product line, a new product line? The can I afford it question. The beautiful thing about a cash flow, business and cash flow forecast, is that you could create multiple what if scenarios. What if business is off 20%? What if it's up 20%? What if we add a new location? What if we add a manager? What if we add I said a new product line?
Correct. Yeah, that's remarkable. And Michael, look, I think just for the sake of all the goodness that we'll pack into that episode when we go through the business and cash flow forecast, I'm going to pull you back, Michael. I'm pulling you back.
All right.
Yeah, we've got some good questions, folks, on that. So tune in.
So next, winning business owners in an economic downturn need the right business strategies. And this is the point about being strategic versus tactical. I mean, did you know that 95% of business and financial strategies used today are identical to your competitors and they don't work? Your strategic plan needs to be made up of strategies that your competition isn't doing. And just to name a couple of strategies here, that every business should have a position of market dominance. And as you heard earlier in this show, we talked about the captivate, problem the customer has and doesn't want, and the fascinate, the solution that they want that they can't find. That is the position of market dominance, and every single business needs one. Every single business should have a compelling offer. Okay, and we went over the 5 components of a compelling offer. Mm-hmm. And every single business should have joint venture partnerships that are working. There's a lot of joint venture partnerships out there that really, they're not working. And one of the reasons why they're not working is that business owners having these discussions with somebody that they'd like to strategically partner with, they drop the ball.
Yeah.
They drop the ball in a couple ways. They don't ask the other side what success looks like.
Absolutely. And I know, Michael, just to interject with some of our experiences with the Business Roundtable, I mean, it really animates business owners, just this idea of how to create a successful strategic alliance and joint venture partnership. I have a number of questions for you related to this, and I imagine we could save this for one of the episodes. In fact, we'll maybe get a little bit deeper into joint ventures and strategic alliances. How does that sound?
Yeah, no, that's great.
Brilliant. Yeah,
Yep.
that's absolutely spot on.
Yeah, that was the intent here. We're going to cover that. These are all we have 22 business strategies that we're going to cover in all these broadcasts. So now the general mindset of business owners in an economic downturn is to just cut everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you could cut, absolutely, but you can't cut your way to success. And we actually have a formula to use to cut expenses. And this formula has worked very well over the years. Sometimes it requires a little somebody to bounce off ideas. Sometimes it requires that, but here they are. You cut the expense. If the expense doesn't help you acquire a customer, that's number one. If the expense doesn't help you retain a customer, that's number two. If the expense doesn't increase the long-term value of a customer, that's number three. And number four, if the expense doesn't help deliver your product or service to a customer.
Yeah.
Those four. Now, that is our formula for cutting expenses.
Yes.
And one of the keys is that a lot of business owners don't know what long-term value of a customer is. The long-term value of a customer is the average number of dollars that you're going to get every time you get a new customer over a certain amount of time. Some people use 5 years, some people use 10 years, some people use lifetime. But understanding that metric is very important because, like, for example, when I was in the frozen cookie dough business, I used to give an oven away with every opening order. Now, a convection oven at the time cost about $250, something like that. We used to give good ones out. And my opening order was probably sometimes as low as $100. Okay, so I wasn't making money on the first order. I was banking on the fact that every time I get a customer, I would get $15,000 worth of sales over a period of 5 years. And that $250 for that oven was pale in comparison to the $15,000 I was going to get over the long term. So understanding what the long-term value of a customer is not only an important metric to have in mind to do a program like I did when I was in the frozen cookie dough business, but it's a metric to understand how you're going to advertise, because understanding the long-term value of a customer influences advertising decisions as well. And so the fourth item that we use, you cut the expense if the expense doesn't help you deliver your product or service to the customer. So if it doesn't deliver it in any way, or it impacts the production of the product or service in any way, you don't cut it. Otherwise, you cut it. And so those are the four critical rules that every business owner should use when it comes to cutting expenses.
Yeah, Michael, a flood of questions related to just that last point. So are all of these rules created equal, or if a business owner were thinking strategically, should they prioritize some of those cutting expense rules over others?
No, they're equal. They're absolutely equal.
Great.
And they should consider every one when going through whether or not to cut an expense.
Very helpful. Some feedback that we're getting here, very helpful. Great.
And so after you apply those rules to expenses, we look for investments. Now, this isn't an economic downturn. I'm using the word investment. Okay. And we invest in what we call the 3 A's: assets that produce revenue, amazing people to help you scale, and automation to leverage time. That automation component now with AI is very, very important. One of the things that I'm doing from an automation standpoint is I'm training an AI tool called Claude. I believe it's an offshoot of ChatGPT.
Okay.
And with Claude, the unique thing about Claude is that you're able to train it about you and your business. And you're able to give it all types of content that you may have developed. You're also able to ask it questions like, Claude, what else do you need to know about my business in order for you to effectively communicate with me? What else is it that you need to know about my business so that you can generate content for me? So that is incredibly invaluable. So automation, you've always got to look for automation to leverage time, because not only does it leverage time, but it reduces cost. And what we have to understand is that success in an economic downturn is not defined by those who spend less. It's defined by those who spend smarter. And that's why, Chucky, we say cutting, we want to give you guidance on how to cut costs, but we also want you to invest.
Yes.
Whether it's in assets that produce revenue, amazing people to help you scale, or the automation to leverage time.
Really well said. Rethink expenses, but increase investments, right?
Right. And so let me review the 7 action items to prepare for an economic downturn as we're winding up here. So the 7 action items is action number 1 is have the ability to adapt. Critical starting point, great starting point, because without that, everything else falls to pieces. Second, define your number 1 personal goal. Third, document your business goals first. Okay, I'm sorry, profit goals. I'm sorry. Document your business goals, profit goals first, Absolutely. then revenue goals. Number 4 is adopt a visionary mindset and make visionary decisions, not reactionary. Number 5, knowing your numbers. This includes 3 components. First and foremost, understanding your vital 5. Okay, your sales, gross profit percent, net profit, and cash. Second, understand what your financial statements are telling you. Third, have a business and cash flow forecast. Next, action number 6 is implement the right business strategies. Be strategic, not tactical. And number 7, rethink expenses and increase investments. And Chucky, today, we're all facing the call to adapt and to make decisions based on the numbers. Those who do will make business a lot less terrifying. Those who do will achieve their number 1 goal. Those who do will thrive in an economic downturn. And get this, there are more millionaires and billionaires minted in economic downturns than any other event in business history. The only question is, are you prepared to be the next one? Any closing comments, Chucky, before we sign off?
A number of thank yous. It's funny, to that last question, folks are saying yes and maybe. Yeah. So it was really good. Michael, very well said. Now, we did get a couple of comments around upcoming episodes. So folks are looking forward to the business and cash flow forecast episode. We previewed that. And then the joint ventures and strategic alliance episode, we previewed that. Right. And then to Michael's point, there are 20 plus strategies based on tried and tested strategies that we plan to review as part of these shows. Really appreciate it. Michael, yeah, anything else?
Yes, to get a copy of the book, Powerful Business Strategy, simply go to our website, www.nextstepcfo.net. It's totally complimentary. And until next Monday at noon Eastern Time, for Chucky Obio, my name is Michael Barbarita. And remember, don't keep doing what your competition is doing.
You have been listening to Powerful Business Strategies, finding out that everything you ever learned about growing your business is wrong. Tune in next week and every week at noon Eastern Time on W4CY Radio with your host, Michael Barbarita of Next Step CFO and moderator Chucky Obio.